You are listening to Mind Over Me, the mental wellness podcast with me, Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist and someone who is very mindful and aware of the decline in our collective mental health. I created this podcast so that we could have more direct and honest conversations about difficult topics and difficult issues. It's my goal to have honest but direct conversations that we need to have that are necessary. It's also my goal to give my listeners the information that they need in order to find their own mental health and mental wellness. This is where you will find the information that you need to be your own healer. And of course, all of this is based on years of clinical experience and expertise. Thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. So, I've noticed something in the last year or so in teenagers and young people that is frankly causing me to have alarm. I made a TikTok video about it. It did pretty good. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 views and counting. Had a couple other videos pop off before, so it's like when you see the 99 plus notification icon, it didn't come as such a shock. Man, the first time that happens, you're like, whoa, holy shit. The nature of this TikTok video was talking about how teens and young people, and I'm really concerned about them, and how they're just completely giving up on life. Like there's no drive, there's no purpose, there's no meaning, there's no value. Honest to God, I have never seen such hopelessness and just totally giving up and quitting on life before in human beings. I've been doing this long enough. I've worked with enough clients over the years. I have never seen like so many people who, especially the young people, especially the teenagers and the young adults, who have just completely given up. There's like this total hopelessness to them, and it's concerning. I made this TikTok video about it, and I'm like, oh, something's going on here, and it's very alarming, and we should all be concerned about it, and we ought to do what we can to help these young people. And thousands of comments, thousands. Most of them are like, well, look at how the world is. Look how hopeless it is. Look how pointless the future is. Look how, just look how bad the world is and how there's no point in trying. A surprising number of people also like, well, you can't blame them. And I'm like, I'm not blaming them. I'm raising the concern. Like, I even said, like, I'm worried about them. We need to try to find a way to help them. And yet people fly in by the dozens like, well, you can't blame them. Like, did you listen to the video? It's like, projecting much? Good grief. A majority of the comments are like, well, look how expensive everything is. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. The government is evil. The world is ran by billionaires, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not disputing that a lot of those things are. I'm not saying those things aren't true. They certainly are. But what I really think has gotten people down is being lonely, the lack of human connection. My video even mentioned like concerns with social media, and of course, there's a ton of people flying in to be like, "Oh, social media is not the problem." I hate to break it to you, but it absolutely is a big part of the problem. I know people don't want to believe it. I know that people want to think that this warm friend is their friend. I think it has completely destroyed our relationships, social media. It hasn't made us more social. It's made us less social. Social media, I mean, it's something that I talk about all the time, ad nauseum, like a broken record. It is shaping your mind, whether you realize it or not. More than likely, if you spend a lot of time on social media, you're going to assume the worst things about people, about situations, about the future. I mean, even the phrase doom scrolling is a very telling one. I think people honestly are in very much denial of how much it's impacting them, and not in a good way. And I'm not attacking people if they spend a lot of time on social media. That's the interesting thing about it, is they perceive it as some sort of personal attack, like I'm going after them, or I'm attacking them personally, or I'm blaming them somehow. And frankly, I can't help but notice that the people who are the most entrenched into social media are the ones who, like, they're the most offensive. They seem to be the ones who misread my intentions. They tend to be the ones who misread my message. I'm literally like, yeah, hey everybody, I'm really concerned about these kiddos, and we ought to find we got to do something about it. We need to find a way to help them. And then like a third, maybe a quarter to a third of the comments are like, well, you can't blame them. Like, I'm not blaming them. As a side note, a lot of you need to learn the difference between responsibility and blame. Huge difference. Huge difference. So yes, financially, times are tough. That has always been an up and down thing. It's an up and down. It always has been. It's like there's a cycle, right? When there's a lot of wealth, when there's a lot of prosperity, people get greedy, so they jack up the prices, they gouge us, they just want more and more and more. So we run out of money to spend, and we're no longer buying garbage that we don't need. The market corrects. We then get a better product for a better price. And here I am, like, going off on, on things with society. This is a podcast about mental health. And this is a very long way of me trying to say that I don't think it has anything to do, or has far less to do anyways, with the economy and, like financial hardships. I think it has everything to do with the fact that we are lonely and that our relationships are on the rocks. Our relationships have been destroyed. And people are far more disconnected from each other than they ever have been. Social media did not make us more social. It made us less social. From time to time, when I'm just scrolling through Reddit, when I'm really tired, the local subreddit, it's like there's one post for the city that happens over and over and over again. And it's people complaining about being lonely and not having friends, and asking, how do people make friends around here? I don't think people realize that they're not as discouraged about the economy as they are lonely. They're extremely lonely. We have a loneliness epidemic. This is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think life circumstances feel and seem 10 times worse if you're really lonely, and especially if you're isolated. Isolation is just one of those parts of mental wellness. The more isolated you are, the more mentally ill you're going to be. I mean, there's a reason why prisons put people in isolation as a punishment. I mean, they've been doing that forever. You really want to torture somebody? Like, isolate them from other human beings for long periods of time. Like, it is brutal. It's torture. And don't even get me started on fucking COVID. I mean, we haven't even begun to unpack the social impacts of that, right? It made us hostile and untrusting of other people. When I saw that there are going to be these extreme measures of isolating kids, not letting them go to school, not letting them socialize with their friends, making them wear masks, I was like, this is going to have a catastrophic effect on kids. A massive, massive catastrophic effect. I called it. I mean, I was quite vocal about it at the time, actually. And I had a couple of therapists that I knew personally that freaked out on me. The kids that were between like the ages of 10 and 12, right, are now like 18-ish, right? 16 to 18-ish. They're the ones that I see that are struggling the most. They're the most isolated. They're the most lonely. They're the ones who are the most hopeless. We cause catastrophic psychological harm by taking the measures with COVID that we did. And as a result, I think all of us are more isolated and lonely now. Some people, myself included, we lost some friends during COVID. Some vicious disagreements about how that was handled. And I really butted heads with one of my closest friends about it. I was less concerned about his opinions about COVID at the time and how it was being handled, and more concerned how harsh he was being on people who disagreed with him. I was like, dude, you're being a jerk. You're acting like an asshole. I don't care. You're still acting like an asshole. Fortunately, that friendship in my life not only survived, but we're still very, very good friends. We have a strong friendship still. Personally, I believe that if we really, really work hard to address this loneliness epidemic, because it really is, it's very epidemic, we are going to solve and improve at least. We're going to improve a ton of problems. I think people are going to feel a lot more hopeful and optimistic about the future. They're going to feel less discouraged, and all of that if we are more connected, or if we reconnect, because we're just totally disconnected from each other. And it's really important to remember that we are hardwired for human connection. Me personally, I'm a very introverted person. I prefer lots, well, not lots, but I prefer close, intimate relationships, friendships. I would much rather sit with a close friend and have a long conversation with them, an in-depth conversation with them, rather than being at a loud party where everybody's wearing a social mask. And I will say, honestly, I'll confess, I will come right out and say it. I'm a little too isolated. I've been a little too isolated. I tell myself that I'm much better being alone than most people are. Like, I'm better at it than most people are. And maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm bullshitting myself. I think that's objectively true for me. Regardless, this has been one of the things that's been on my mind recently as well. About making new friends, spending more time with quality friends, even just maybe talking to people in public, striking up conversations with people in public. I mean, I'm a therapist, for crying out loud. I'm actually really good at talking to people. Really good at it when I actually take the time to do it. I mean, because I talk to people for a living, sometimes I need a break. But one thing that I know for sure is that people are starving. They're absolutely starving for human connection. They're starving for friendships. They're starving for authenticity. With the age of AI that is upon us, I think we have an individual choice to either plunge deeper into a technological world or start pulling away from it. I mean, personally, I think that human connection and human relationships and authenticity, especially authenticity, is going to be a real hot commodity in the future. I think it's going to be extremely valuable. And sometimes I think to myself, like, I need to get into the business of just reconnecting human beings, putting them together in groups and getting them to talk and connect and laugh and relate. People are so afraid to be vulnerable. I notice, like, you put them in social situations, it's hard for them to just relax and let go and be themselves. Like joking, laughing, those things cause people to feel vulnerable. And of course, one of our other epidemics are human beings who cannot tolerate any emotional discomfort. And I talked a little bit about this in my previous episode. If you want good mental health, get comfortable with uncomfortable emotions. Face your uncomfortable emotions and deal with your uncomfortable emotions. And just, as a side note, right? The more that you avoid uncomfortable emotions, the more mentally unwell you're going to be. That's just one of those things. Don't avoid it. Face it. Work through it. Deal with it. So, and this is applicable in this case because if you want to reestablish friendships, and maybe you never had them, like I talk to teenagers who don't know what real friendship is. I remember like 5 years ago or so, I was working with this teenager, and he came into a session. And he's like, "Man, the other day I had so much fun." And I said, "Okay, what was fun? What did you do?" And he says, "Well, we had like several friends together. There was like 5 of us, and we just like hung out and like joked and laughed and had fun and played video games and ate food." He went on and on and on. Oh, it was the best time. We had so much fun. And I was like, I was like, yeah, man, in the 90s, when I was a teenager, we did that on the reg. I was like on the daily. I was hanging out with friends, in an afternoon or evening scenario. I was with friends more than not. When I was like 16, 17 years old, I was never home, like ever. And my parents didn't care. I was a free range kid. I've worked with several teenagers over the years who have like virtually zero friends. Like I'm thinking of one particular kiddo right now who pretty much zero friends, none, not a one. He sort of has one, but he doesn't foster that friendship. He doesn't feed it. He doesn't invest into it. I try to encourage him, right? Like, dude, like friendship is this thing that you have to cultivate. You have to grow it. You feed it. You nurture it. And of course, he's always like, "Oh, I don't want to bother him." And of course, what I try to tell him is that your friend is probably sitting around thinking the same thing, bud, because all of you are struggling. You're all struggling with this. But I believe that young people see the future as dire, hopeless, and not even worth their time and investment because they're lacking real quality human connections. And because they're really, really super duper lonely. And what has traditionally been true about human beings is we are able to work through anything together as long as we work together and as long as we have each other. And so, like my mom, for example, she's old. She's 83. Her father was born in 1913, a year before World War One started. So he lived through World War One, the Great Depression, and World War Two. My grandpa was not drafted because he was a farmer. He was raising beef and crops and all that. So he stayed home from the war and farmed, basically. My mom was born in 1943. In the early 50s, she remembers growing up in a very small town in Arizona. She talks very fondly of this place. I mean, very, very like it's paradise. She had a very, very charmed childhood in this town. I visited the place once and I thought it was a desolate wasteland. But my mom she adores this place. The people back then worked very, very hard for their food. It's just a bunch of farmers. You had one farmer with chickens and would have eggs, and then you had other farmers with dairy cows. And then you had another one that was growing crops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And they were a community. They worked together. They would barter. They would trade goods. They would have community events. It didn't matter that you didn't have money. It was like people would just show up and listen to music and talk and visit and just have fun. And honestly, I think we need to bring some of that back. It would be nice to just have events around where it's like, yeah, we're just going to hang out at the park and talk and connect and just keep it simple and cheap. Do like a potluck. I used to have potlucks at my home. I need to start doing those again. I used to have people over for games too. Like we would eat and then sometimes play games. A little bit of Cards Against Humanity. Keeps the good times rolling. It also easily and quickly gets rid of people who are easily offended. I'm just kidding. I don't invite those types of people. I don't want them around. And maybe that's an important talking point. If you want to be more social, if you want to improve your human connections, if you want better friendships, like if you are accustomed to listening to my podcast, you know this podcast is all about self-reflection. You know that this podcast is about what you can do to change your own circumstances, what's within your power to change or alter. If you find yourself feeling discouraged about the future, about the world, the state of things, etc., 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 ask yourself. I want you to ask yourself, how lonely am I? Like honestly, how lonely are you? Because life is so much harder when you're lonely, so much harder. So as usual, I like to provide a little bit of suggestions, action items that might be able to help some people out there to, solve this problem, attack this issue, and get it figured out. So let's go down the list. Number one, examine your social media use. Do you believe that your social media use is harming your social life or your human connections or how you view people? Do you hate people? Do you lack friendship because you feel like you hate people? Okay, I'm going to challenge you to extract social media from your life for a week, preferably two. See what happens. Do an experiment. Notice what changes, because I promise you something's going to change. You're going to notice some changes. Number two, challenge your assumptions about life and relationships, other people and friendships. If you have social anxiety, right, you're going to have anxiety that convinces you that other people might be judging you or they're thinking things about you or maybe they're pretending to like you, right? Anxiety has a tendency to fill your mind with a whole bunch of garbage that just isn't true. Social anxiety comes with a whole bunch of fake scenarios, right? People are persecuting me. People are harming me. Number three, improve your existing friendships or relationships. That can include family members and, of course, friends, maybe coworkers. And just as a side note, too, the work from home culture, I think, has also kind of harmed friendships because traditionally people have made a lot of friends at work. When I was in high school, I worked at Dairy Queen and I made a ton of friends. Working at Dairy Queen, like, absolutely enhanced my social life big time. I made a ton of friends while I was working there, and one of my closest friends got a job there too, so that only made things more social for both of us. It's funny too because like one of my supervisors there, she became a therapist, right? And I ran into her recently. I got this is so long ago. This is so long ago. This is like 30 years ago. And I saw her and she's a therapist and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" I hadn't seen her or talked to her in a long ass time. But she looked at me and she went, "How did we start hanging out back in the day?" And that's one of those moments where I realized, like, I remember everything. I remember frickin' everything. It's a blessing and a curse, y'all. Let me tell you. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? How did we start hanging out? We worked at Dairy Queen. You forgot that we worked at. You forgot that we worked at Dairy Queen together. She was like, "Oh yeah, oh that's right." Anyways, the work from home culture also kind of upending our friendships. But anyways, back to my list here of things that you can do. Okay, enhance existing relationships, feed them. Don't wait for people to reach out to you. Reach out to them first. Ask people sincerely how they're doing. Tell them that you miss them. I'm thinking of somebody right now, one of my friends I haven't talked to in a long time. I need to reach out to him and say hello, ask him how he's doing. See, I'm gonna do the homework too, y'all. I'm gonna do it too. I need to improve my relationships, honestly. I really do. This is something that I need to work on as well. And number four, do what you can to make new friends. I know it's kind of easier said than done. I personally have gotten a lot of benefit from meetup.com. I'm surprised there aren't more people that don't know about Meetup. I think Meetup has terrible marketing, probably, but it's actually a great platform where you can find groups or meetups according to your interests and local area. It's a great place to make friends. In my local area, I mean, there's everything from board game meetups to dinner meetups to spirituality meetups. There are people who walk dogs. There are dog meetups, hiking meetups, outdoor stuff. I mean, everything. And if you feel so bold, like create your own meetup, create your own social group. Yeah, it could be a really good thing for you. Okay, so let's get into the shadow work journal prompts. I want to wrap this up because the weather is nice and mild and my backyard is calling. I want to go read a book outside and do a short meditation. And I have a particularly rascally cat that woke up from a long nap. And I know he will chill out if I let him out into the world. Okay, so if you're new to my podcast, I'd like to do shadow work journal prompts each and every episode. Shadow work is a method that we dive in deep into our psyche so we can understand ourselves, build a better relationship with ourselves, understand our patterns, and build our awareness. In order to get the most out of my shadow work journal prompts, I highly recommend using a real journal or a notebook to write them down. It's how you're going to get the most benefit. And of course, I need to offer a brief disclaimer. I'm a therapist. I'm not your therapist. For the most part, my shadow work journal prompts are not for wimps. Use your own discretion, and if needed, seek out your own individual therapy with help. I'm just realizing, by the way, that I almost got through an entire episode without saying anything bad about other therapists. I can remedy that very, very quickly. How many therapists does it take to screw in a light bulb? A lot of them, because they're morons and they suck. It's the best that I could do on a moment's notice. Let's get into these shadow work journal prompts. Okay, number one, rate your social life. Let's do a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the worst it can be. 10 is the best it can be. Number two, what stops you from making steps to improve your social life? Okay, get really, really specific about any social anxiety or fears or things that are holding you back, assumptions that your mind wants to make about other people or about social situations. Get really, really super duper specific. Make a really comprehensive list. The more, the better. I seriously, when people make these types of lists, they usually learn a lot more about themselves and they gain a lot of valuable insights. And number three, are you lonely? Am I lonely? That's a question. If yes, how lonely are you? Number four, how do you deal with your loneliness? I'm betting that you are. If you're listening to this episode, I'm betting that you're dealing with some loneliness. Do you deal with it in a good way, in a bad way? Maybe a little from column A, a little from column B. And last, I think we're on number six. What emotions do you feel when you think about being lonely? Like, what is that emotional experience like for you? The idea here is to allow yourself to get emotional, feel your emotions completely and fully. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm ready to go outside. I'm ready to go relax in my backyard. A nice cool evening and just chill. Thank you for listening. I actually got a notification this last week that I got 500 downloads on my podcast here, which is a lot for me. So some of the consistency is paying off. Thank you for listening. Give us a follow. Tell your friends. And remember, you must do hard things. We'll see you next time.